Alright everyone, we're going to go over the exit ticket we did last Wednesday. Many of you did very well on it. Some of you are still struggling a little bit, and I'll just kind of go through it step by step to hopefully facilitate things. First what we're going to want to do, we'll write down the equation and set up a little chart. Okay, we're going to have x values. Here is our linear equation. Y equals negative 2x plus 2. Okay, we're going to set up a table. Alright, we're going to have x values here. We're going to have negative 2x plus 2 in here. And we're going to have y over here. Okay, so we're going to have different inputs for x. We're going to put those here, run them through our equation, and come out with an output for y. Alright, so let's use negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. 4 simple values for x, alright? So if we put negative 1 in here, so it's going to be negative 2 times negative 1 plus 2. So we put negative 1 in here, our first value for x, in our equation. So we're going to come up with a value for y. So negative 2 times negative 1, we know a negative times a negative is positive. So negative 2 times negative 1 is 2 plus 2 equals 4. So for our first value of x, we put in here, we come out with a y value of 4. Alright? We do the same thing with 0. Negative 2 times 0 plus 2. Negative 2 times 0 is 0. Any number times 0 is going to be 0. Plus 2 is going to be 2. So it's a total of 2. So when x is 0, y is 2. And we also know that this right here, when x equals 0, that means this is going to be our y-intercept. Alright? This is where our linear equation, every value for x and y that fits into this equation is going to be on a straight line. That straight line is going to cross the y-axis, the vertical axis, at this point in this equation. When x equals 0, on the horizontal axis right in the middle, then y equals 2. So there's our y-intercept. Y-intercept. Alright, so now let's plug in x equals 1. So we've got negative 2 times 1 plus 2. Okay, negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Then plus 2 is going to equal 0. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. So there's our next one for x. Now let's plug in 2. Negative 2 times 2 plus 2. Alright? Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. A negative times a positive is a negative. So negative 2 times 2 is 4, plus 2, or negative 4, plus 2 is going to be negative 2. Now if you notice that we have a bit of a pattern here. It's a linear equation, so there are going to be a lot of patterns. Every time x goes up by 1, we start at negative 1, up to 0, up to 1, up to 2. Every time x goes up, goes to the right on the horizontal axis, y goes down. See? Y started at 4 when x was negative 1, then it's 2, then it's 0, then it's negative 2. So it's going down by 2 every time y goes up by 1. So we know that our slope is going to be negative 2 because that's the change in y over the change in x. These are the economic mathematical symbols for change, which is a delta. But so let's go ahead and we'll graph what we have here. Alright, I'm going to erase this. Quick graph. We're going to graph our points, our coordinate points, our ordered pairs, negative 1 and 4, 0, 2, 1, 0, 2, and negative 2. So we're going to do a quick graph. This might not be the greatest. Here's x, y. Y is always the horizontal, y is always the vertical, x is always the horizontal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's graph the first point. X equals negative 1, y equals 4. X equals negative 1 right here. Y equals 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, there's our first point. Next point, x equals 0, y equals 2. So x equals 0 is right here. It's not over this way or this way. It's right in the middle. It's at our origin. So when x equals 0, y equals 2. See? There was our y-intercept. Now, when x equals 1, y equals 0, x equals 1, y equals 0, right there. So there's where our line's going to cross the x-axis. When y equals 0, x equals 1. When x equals 2, y equals negative 2. So when x equals 2, y equals negative 2. Now this isn't going to be a perfectly straight line, but you can see there's our line right there, all right? That is the line that is designated, that is shown by this equation right here. The definition of this equation is right on this line. Any point you put in for x and y that's on this line will satisfy this equation, all right? So, let's just finish up things. Here's what it's going to look like in the end. Blank ticket on the top. Mr. Scheuerman filled out the one on the bottom. There's our line. That's a little bit better graph. All right, I hope everyone understands this. So, good luck, and once again, start with a chart like this, or a table. Pick out an x value that's going to fit on your graph, and just plug in values for x. I mean, we could plug in, let's see, x equals negative 4. So negative 4 times 2 is negative 8, plus 2 is negative 6. So when x is negative 4, y is negative 6, which is going to be right down here. All right? All right, thank you.